uncle, one of my absolute favorite relatives. I didn't get to see him very often. My name is Kathy. I am Julianne's oldest daughter. My family ended up living in Germany in 1969-70 while Jim and Tish and Penny were there. We were in Munich. They were outside of Stuttgart. We got to spend a lot of time there. And he was very gracious, even though there were 4 kids in my family and we were pandemonium on impact. Very loud, very boisterous, very self-amusing, which leads to a couple of memories. And they both involve cigarettes. The first is watching him light the filter on his cigarette because of the noise coming off of us. And another involves my sister Karen, who was almost 6 when this happened. It was very soon after we had gotten there, and he was lighting a cigarette. We weren't around people who smoked cigarettes, but anti-smoking PSAs were really common in the States at that time. So he lights a cigarette, she's standing behind him, and he's sitting there, and she's going, and then, what was the next line? It's a killer? Or they're killers. They're killers, and he's sitting there going, what the? Because there had been a commercial on in the States right before we left of a guy setting off dynamite and putting cotton in his ears before he lit a cigarette, which caused the dynamite to flow up. Despite the fact that we were so mystifying and noisy, he continued allowing us into his house very generously, and which led to one of my major cool memories. I was in a household filled with classical music, and Uncle Jim had a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and he would play Otis Redding, sitting on the dock of the bay, and he would play along by ear on the piano, and he would allow me to chord along on the guitar, which was major cool for a 13-year-old. Well, years later, we crossed paths again at Penny's wedding, and I was in my late 20s at this point, and I was flabbergasted afterwards to receive a letter from him. And he told me that I was an adult, I was mature, I was articulate, and he had determined that I would make an acceptable pen pal. So I'm going to read you the letter that set off our pen pal. You like to write, and I like to read. Here are some topics we enjoy discussing. 1, God. 2, the relative importance of style vis-a-vis content in political journalism today. 3, the etymology of the word squat. Was it originally onomatopoeic? 4, the similarities and differences between the rules of grammar of the lyrics of Gregorian chants and the rules of motion of a beta particle in a nuclear reactor. 5, the devil. 6, what plea bargaining has to do with justice. 7, the recursive implications of the word sesquipedalian. My personal favorite. 8, sex before marriage is blocking the aisle, thereby delaying the ceremony, the only potential pitfall. 9, Schrodinger's cat. 10, the effect on foreign policy wrought by China's Ministry of Silly Walks, W-O-K. 11, whether excessive pun abuse leads to blindness. Quote, I'll do it till I need glasses and then I'll stop, close quote. 12, an estimate of the income of the Catholic Church if the Pope were to auction off his outfit, the one he wears for the Christmas Eve midnight Mass, from the balcony of St. Peter's on Easter Sunday morning. Would it be taxable? 13, does speaking a Texas dialect qualify as a performing art? Do they really talk that way in the privacy of their own homes? We're from Texas. 14, whether the great vowel shift, the brutal distortion of the pronunciation of vowels perpetrated by English speakers around the time of Alfred the Great, was ever called the Great Vowel Movement. 15, the irony of the fact that God created Charles Darwin simply to make us aware of Jerry Falwell's lineage. 16, alternatives to counting. 17, the number of diminished 6 chords, treating inversion as equivalence. 18, has any lawyer ever prepared a brief that rhymed? Did it help? 19, how Emily Dickinson coped with the compulsion to share. I chose because I hated the cat that hung around outside my door. Number 9, Schrodinger's cat, having no idea that I had just wandered into quantum physics, and that's where our correspondence went, leading to discussion of Alan Turing, of programming, of mathematics, and ultimately solipsism being discussed by the 7 dwarfs on a lunch break. This man was legendary among my friends. I would get letters. He signed them, "You, Jim." They would want copies. I have brought a set of these, number of them. So if you find me, you will of course get them. He always told me that he worked crossword puzzles at the job. So I'm fascinated to hear what he thought other people thought he did.